Admiral Min stood in the Galactic Council chambers and felt his anger rising. Around him, representatives from 200 alien species sat in their floating seats. Most of them looked bored. Some were checking their data tablets. A few weren't even paying attention to what he was saying. He had just shown them evidence of a massacre, 3 colony worlds destroyed, 340,000 people dead. Humans, yes, but also members of a dozen other species who had chosen to live alongside Earth's colonists. The Empire had bombed them from orbit without warning, without mercy, without reason except to show their strength. Min had brought videos. He had brought survivor testimonies. He had brought DNA evidence from the attack sites. He had laid it all out clearly and asked for one simple thing: permission to respond with military force against the Empire. The Council had been talking for 3 hours now. They weren't talking about justice. They were talking about procedures and protocols, and whether Earth had followed the proper forms when filing the complaint. Ambassador Haewon Park sat beside him, her face calm but her hands clenched tight. She had been Earth's voice in this council for 12 years. She knew how these aliens thought. She knew they saw humans as weak. Finally, Council Overseer spoke. He was a creature, tall and thin with 4 arms and eyes that glittered like black glass. His species had been part of the Council for 8,000 years. They thought that made them wise. Ambassador Park said, his voice clicking through the translator. Earth's concerns are noted. However, we must consider the broader implications of military action. The Empire is a long-standing member of this council. We cannot simply authorize war based on one incident. One incident. Min couldn't stop himself from speaking. 340,000 dead is one incident. Turned his black eyes toward the Admiral. Admiral, we understand you are upset, but Earth must learn to accept its place in the galactic community. Your species is young. Your military is adequate for self-defense, but you are not a warrior race. Leave such matters to those better equipped for combat. The words hung in the air. Around the chamber, Min saw other aliens nodding. They agreed. They thought humans were soft, weak, not a threat. Min looked at Haewon. She gave him a small nod. They had discussed this possibility. They had prepared for it. Haewon stood slowly. Her voice was quiet when she spoke, but it carried through the entire chamber. Overseer, honored council members, I need you to understand something very important. She paused. Every eye in the room turned to her. For 47 years, Earth has been a member of this council. For 47 years, we have followed your rules. We have kept the peace. We have been good neighbors to every species we have encountered. But there is something you don't know about us. Something we have kept hidden out of respect for galactic peace and fear of how you might react. Made a dismissive gesture with one of his hands. Ambassador, please. We have full intelligence reports on Earth's military capabilities. Your fleet consists of 42 combat vessels, mostly frigates and light cruisers. Your ground forces number approximately 2 million soldiers. Your weapons technology is adequate. There is no secret here. Haewon smiled. It was not a happy smile. Those 42 ships, those are the only ones we let you see. Those 2 million soldiers, they're our diplomatic guard. As for our weapons technology being adequate, she shook her head. We have been operating under what we call the restraint protocol. We have deliberately hidden the true extent of our military capabilities. We did this because we wanted to be part of the galactic community. We wanted you to see us as friends, not threats. The chamber had gone very quiet now. Even the board representatives were paying attention. But understand this, Haewon continued, her voice harder now. We held back because we chose to, not because we had to. We have weapons you cannot imagine. We have ships you have never seen. We have been preparing for war since before we left our solar system, because our history taught us one terrible lesson. Peace is only maintained by those strong enough to defend it. Dong-ha, Earth's chief strategic warfare officer, stood and activated a holographic display. This is a message from Earth Command, he said. The display showed admiral coordinates, fleet positions, and tactical data. For the past 5 decades, we have been monitoring every military movement in this sector. We know where every fleet is. We know what weapons every species possesses. We have been watching, learning, and preparing. Stood up, his body language aggressive. Is this a threat, Ambassador Park? Are you threatening this council? No, HFY said simply. I am giving you a warning. The Empire has murdered our people. You refuse to act, so we will act. We are formally withdrawing our request for council authorization. Earth will handle this matter on its own terms. You cannot, another council member shouted. Unauthorized military action violates the Treaty of Stars. HFY turned to face the speaker. The Treaty of Stars also forbids the killing of civilians. The Empire violated that treaty when they bombed our colonies. We gave you a chance to enforce your own laws. You chose not to, so now we will enforce them ourselves. She gathered her things, preparing to leave. But before she walked out, she turned back one last time. Her next words would echo through the galaxy for years to come. For 5 decades, Earth has operated under voluntary military restraint. We have hidden our true capabilities out of respect for galactic peace. But understand this clearly. If the Council will not act and if our people continue to die, we will remove those restraints. And you will not recognize what we become. You have been warned. The silence in the chamber was absolute. Then laughed, a clicking, chittering sound. Empty threats from a minor species. The Council votes to issue a formal statement of concern to the Empire. That is sufficient. The vote was called. It passed by a wide margin. A strongly worded statement, nothing more. Min, HFY, and Dongha left the chamber together. They walked through the crystal corridors of the Council station without speaking. Other species moved aside as they passed. None of them understood yet. None of them knew what was coming. When they reached their ship, Dongha went immediately to the communications console. He opened a secure channel to Earth Command. His message was simple and direct. Authorization requested. Full protocol termination. The response came back within 2 hours. It was signed by the President of Earth, the United Military Command, and the leaders of every major nation on the planet. Restraint protocol is hereby dissolved. Rules of engagement, none. Show them who we really are. Min read the message 3 times. Then he looked at his senior officers. Prepare the fleet, not the diplomatic fleet, the real fleet. It's time to stop pretending. In the depths of space, in hidden locations throughout Earth's territory, systems began to activate. Quantum-fold hangars started opening. Inside them were ships the galaxy had never seen, weapons the Council didn't know existed, an entire military force that had been hidden in dimensional pockets for decades. The warning had been given. It had been ignored. Now Earth would show the galaxy what happened when you mistook restraint for weakness. The Empire had killed 340,000 humans. They were about to learn the cost of that mistake, and the galaxy was about to learn the truth about Earth. Fleet Admiral Sangwoo Lee watched the tactical display and allowed himself a cold smile. 72 hours ago, Earth had dissolved the restraint protocol. Now the galaxy was seeing what humanity had kept hidden for nearly 5 decades. 400 warships had emerged from quantum-fold hangars, not the small frigates the Council knew about. These were dreadnoughts, carriers, and heavy cruisers equipped with technology no other species possessed. The ships appeared on every sensor in the sector at once. No warning, no gradual buildup. One moment they weren't there, the next moment they were everywhere. The panic in galactic communications had been immediate and satisfying. But Sangwoo wasn't thinking about the Council's fear. He was thinking about the Empire. They had killed Earth's people. Now they would pay. The emboldened by the Council's weak response had made their next move quickly. War Prince led an attack fleet of 89 warships toward 442b, one of Earth's agricultural colonies. 5 million humans lived there. the plan to make an example of them. They had no idea what was waiting. Captain I sat in the command chair of the stealth carrier Silent Requiem. Her ship had been in orbit around 442b for 3 days, completely invisible to sensors. Around her, 40 crew members worked in silence. They had trained for this moment for years. Fleet dropping out of faster-than-light travel, her tactical officer reported. Distance, 2 million kilometers. They're forming attack formation. I studied the display. 89 ships. Against other species, that would be an overwhelming force. Against her single carrier, it should have been certain victory for the... Should have been. Launch drone swarms, she ordered. Authorization code, Mercy. From the Silent Requiem's launch bays, 10,000 combat drones emerged. Each one was the size of a small car, equipped with its own targeting computer and weapon systems. They moved in perfect coordination, controlled by Earth's most advanced artificial intelligence. The fleet saw them coming. They opened fire with energy weapons and missiles. Hundreds of drones were destroyed in the first volley. But thousands more survived. They reached the fleet and began their work. War Prince watched in growing horror as his ship started dying. The human drones didn't fight like anything he had seen before. They adapted in real time, learning from each attack. When his ships used energy shields, the drones switched to kinetic weapons. When his ships deployed countermeasures, the drones changed their approach patterns. In 4 minutes, 34 of his warships were destroyed or disabled. The drones didn't just attack randomly. They targeted engines first, preventing escape. Then they targeted weapons, then life support. Tried to retreat. His remaining 55 ships attempted to jump to faster-than-light travel. Nothing happened. Navigation systems are not responding, his helmsman shouted. Something is interfering with our jump drives. On the Silent Requiem, I's communications officer smiled. Their systems are completely compromised, Captain. We've been in their network since they arrived. They can't jump. They can't even aim properly anymore. I nodded. Send the message. A transmission went out to every ship. I's face appeared on their screens. This is Captain I of the Earth Defense Forces. You came here to kill civilians. You will not leave. Stand down immediately or be destroyed. Refused, he ordered his ships to fight. It was the last order he would give as a free commander. The main Earth fleet arrived 12 minutes later. Fleet Admiral Sangwoo Lee commanded 200 warships, but he didn't need them for this battle. The Silent Requiem's drones had already won. Still, Sangwoo wanted to send a message, not just but to the entire galaxy that was watching. Fire relativistic missiles, he ordered, all targets. From the human fleet, 50 missiles launched. They didn't look dangerous at first, but as they accelerated, they approached impossible speeds, 99.9% of light speed. At that velocity, each missile carried more energy than a nuclear weapon. The shields, designed to stop energy beams and explosions, were useless. The missiles struck with the force of stars. 11 minutes after Fleet Admiral Sangwoo Lee arrived, the battle was over. 55 warships destroyed. Not a single human casualty. Not a single human ship damaged. Sangwoo opened a broadcast to the empires. This is Fleet Admiral Sangwoo Lee of Earth. You were warned. You chose to ignore that warning. No mercy was promised. None will be given. This is what happens when you attack humanity. But Earth wasn't done. While the space battle ended, another phase began on the ground. Lieutenant Nam led a team of 50 Special Operations soldiers. They wore armor that bent light around them, making them effectively invisible. They carried weapons that made no sound. They had been inserted onto 3 military bases without anyone noticing. And his team moved through the first base like ghosts. The soldiers never saw them coming. Human technology allowed them to pass through security systems undetected. Their thermal signatures were suppressed. Their footsteps made no noise. They placed explosives at critical points throughout the base: power generators, ammunition depots, command centers. The charges were set with precision timers. Team 1 in position, reported through his encrypted communicator, ready for extraction. Team 2 ready. Team 3 ready. Execute, came the order from command. 3 bases exploded within seconds of each other. Not civilian targets, pure military installations. Thousands of soldiers died, but not a single civilian was harmed. Earth had learned to make war with terrible precision. The Empire realized, too late, that they had made a catastrophic mistake. They issued an immediate statement calling for negotiations. The Galactic Council also sent urgent messages to Earth. Council Overseer himself contacted Admiral Min. "Admiral, the Council demands that Earth cease its offensive immediately. This level of violence is unacceptable." Min looked at the alien on his screen with cold eyes. "We warned you this would happen. You called our warning empty threats. You told us to accept our place among the lesser species. Now you see the truth. We are not lesser. We never were." But the destruction began. "Is exactly what we said would come if you refused to act," Min interrupted. "The Empire murdered 340,000 civilians. We have destroyed military targets only. We have killed soldiers who chose to serve an empire that commits war crimes. We are showing restraint even now, Overseer. This could be much worse. You cannot continue this war without Council authorization." Ambassador Haywon Park appeared beside Min on the transmission. "The Council had its chance to authorize appropriate action. You chose strongly worded statements instead. So now Earth acts alone. Any species that interferes will be treated as a co-belligerent. That includes the Council itself." She ended the transmission without waiting for a response. Bora Han, head of Earth's Quantum Weapons Division, watched the news broadcasts from across the galaxy. Every species was talking about Earth now. Fear, respect, anger, confusion, all of it mixed together. She had spent 20 years developing the weapons that were now winning this war. Relativistic missiles that could punch through any shield. Quantum-entangled targeting systems that made missing impossible. Drone swarms with artificial intelligence sophisticated enough to adapt to any defense. The galaxy had thought humans were primitive. They had been so wrong. Bora's assistant approached her. "Ma'am, we're getting reports that 6 more species have withdrawn their ambassadors from council sessions. They're afraid to be associated with the decision to ignore Earth's warning." Bora nodded. "Good. Fear will keep others from making the same mistake they made. But fear alone isn't enough. We need them to understand why we held back for so long." "Do you think they will understand?" "Eventually," Bora said. "We held back because we believed in peace. We wanted to be part of something larger than ourselves. But we will never be victims. That's the lesson here. Peace is our choice, not our weakness." Across the galaxy, military analysts were reaching the same conclusion. Earth hadn't just won a battle. They had demonstrated a level of technological and tactical sophistication that suggested they had been holding back for decades. The 42 ships the Council knew about. Those were barely reconnaissance vessels compared to what Earth actually possessed. The Empire mobilized its full military force in response. 1,200 warships and occupation forces on 14 worlds. Empress believed that humanity's numerical advantage couldn't last against a true military power. She would learn otherwise soon enough. Admiral Sangwoo Lee reviewed the tactical reports and smiled again. The thought they were fighting a war. They weren't. They were learning a lesson, and Earth was a very thorough teacher. General stood on the command deck of the assault carrier Dawn's Thunder and watched the planet below. Prime, the of the empire that had started this war. 3 billion lived on that world. Within the next 72 hours, it would be under human control. "All units report ready," his tactical officer said. Ground forces prepared for deployment, atmospheric control established, enemy defenses identified and tagged. Nodded slowly. This was the moment that would define the war. Taking an enemy was supposed to be nearly impossible. Defensive advantages, knowledge of terrain, civilian populations that could be mobilized, all of it should have made this invasion a nightmare. But Earth had spent decades preparing for exactly this scenario. Not specifically for but for any species that might threaten humanity. They had studied the biology, psychology, and military doctrine of every intelligent species in the galaxy. They knew the better than they knew themselves. "Begin the operation," ordered. Dr. Bin O watched from her station on a separate ship as the first phase began. She was the head of warfare, a division most of the galaxy didn't even know existed. Her job was simple: develop weapons specifically designed for each alien species Earth might have to fight. She had created something elegant. Their species had evolved on a world with a different atmospheric composition than most. Their hearing worked on frequencies that other species couldn't detect. Their respiratory system processed oxygen differently than humans. All of those differences were now being used against them. Human forces deployed sonic weapons across Prime. The weapons emitted sound at frequencies that could hear but humans couldn't. To the soldiers, it was like having knives driven into their brains. They dropped their weapons, fell to the ground, unable to think clearly or coordinate their defenses. Next came the atmospheric agents. Dr. Bin had designed them carefully. They targeted the respiratory system specifically, causing rapid unconsciousness but no permanent damage. Other species on the planet, including the few aliens living there, were unaffected. It was precision warfare at the molecular level. Within 6 hours, Prime's military forces were neutralized without Earth firing a single bullet in most areas. But the real devastation came from Commander Jinwoo, Cyber Warfare Division. Jinwoo had been inside computer networks for 3 years. They didn't know it. No one knew it. Earth's intelligence services had infiltrated every major government and military system in the galaxy, gathering information, studying weaknesses, preparing for a day like this. Now Jinwoo unleashed everything he had prepared. Military communications went dark. Not jammed, that would have been crude. Instead, the networks were still functional, but they were under complete human control. Commanders thought they were talking to each other. Actually, they were talking to Earth's artificial intelligence systems, which fed them false information designed to create maximum chaos. A general received orders to retreat to defensive positions in the north. The orders looked legitimate, came through proper channels, had all the right security codes. He obeyed. The positions he retreated to were actually kill zones where human forces were waiting. Another commander was told that human reinforcements were landing in the eastern continent. She diverted her forces to respond. There were no reinforcements in the east. It was a complete fabrication. While she moved her troops, the real human forces took the western territories unopposed. But Jinwoo's most effective weapon was information itself. He bypassed the government's censorship systems and broadcast directly to civilian populations. Every screen on the planet suddenly showed the same message: the truth about why this war started, what their government had done, and what Earth's terms for peace would be. The people learned that their government had attacked civilian colonies without provocation. They learned that Earth had asked the Galactic Council for a peaceful resolution and been. They learned that their empire's aggression had brought this invasion on themselves. Most importantly, they learned that Earth was not there to conquer them, but to end their government's ability to threaten others. Earth's intelligence director watched all of this unfold from her office deep beneath the surface of Earth. For 47 years, she had overseen the most sophisticated intelligence operation in galactic history. While other species thought humans were primitive, people had been monitoring everyone. She knew the fleet movements of every major power. She knew their battle plans, their technological capabilities, their political secrets. She knew which council members accepted bribes, which ambassadors were spies, which governments were on the edge of collapse. The galaxy had underestimated Earth in every way possible. They had thought humans were technologically inferior, militarily weak, and strategically unsophisticated. They were wrong on every count. But's greatest triumph wasn't the military intelligence. It was what she revealed next. She released a data package to every major news organization in the galaxy. The package contained proof of crimes committed by various council members: corruption, war crimes, slavery, biological weapons programs. Species that had condemned Earth's actions were shown to be guilty of far worse. The Galactic Council's moral authority evaporated overnight. How could they condemn Earth for responding to an attack when they had been covering up atrocities for decades? On Prime, the invasion continued with brutal efficiency. Generals' forces moved through cities like water flowing around rocks. They encountered resistance in some areas. When they did, they responded with overwhelming but precise force. Military targets were destroyed. Civilian areas were left untouched. The military tried to use their own people as shields, setting up defensive positions in residential areas. Earth's response was to wait them out, cutting off supply lines and communications until the soldiers surrendered rather than starve. After 3 weeks, it was over. The military had been completely dismantled. Their fleet was scattered across the galaxy, ships destroyed or captured. There was under human control. Their government had collapsed. 3 weeks. An empire that had existed for 3,000 years, defeated in 3 weeks. Empress sat in a detention facility that had once been her own palace. General came to meet her personally. He wanted her to understand what had happened. "You believed you were a warrior race," he said quietly. "You believed your military traditions made you strong. You were wrong. Tradition doesn't win wars. Technology, intelligence, and adaptability win wars. We had all three. You had nostalgia for past glories." Looked at him with hate in her eyes. "You will conquer us then, make us slaves." "No," shook his head. "We don't want your world. We never did. We want you to understand that attacking humanity has consequences. We want the galaxy to understand that we held back because we chose to, not because we had to." He stood and prepared to leave. "Earth will withdraw from Prime in 6 months. We will leave behind monitoring systems to ensure you never threaten another species again. You will pay reparations to the families of those you murdered. Your military will be limited to defensive forces only, but you will remain a free people. We are not conquerors. We are just very, very good at defending ourselves." The terms of surrender were harsh but not vindictive. The empire would continue to exist, but it would never again be a threat. They would remember this lesson for generations. But the lesson wasn't just for the. Every species in the galaxy was watching. They saw a war that should have taken years end in weeks. They saw a technologically superior species crush a traditional military power with almost casual efficiency. They saw humanity fight with a level of precision and intelligence that seemed impossible. Most importantly, they saw that Earth could have done this at any time over the past 47 years. The power had always been there. Humanity had simply chosen not to use it. That choice, and the fact that it was a choice, changed everything. Ambassador Haywon Park received hundreds of communications from other species. Some were messages of support. Some were apologies for doubting Earth. Many were from governments suddenly very interested in establishing better relationships with humanity. A few were from species asking a simple question: if Earth had this much power all along, what else were they hiding? Haywon smiled when she read those messages. Let them wonder. Let them worry. Earth had spent 5 decades being underestimated. Now the galaxy would spend the next 5 decades wondering what else humans were capable of. The age of humanity being dismissed as a minor species was over. A new age was beginning, and Earth intended to make sure that everyone remembered the lesson they had just taught. Peace is not weakness, restraint is not inability, and patience has limits. The Empire had learned that lesson in blood and fire. The rest of the galaxy had learned it by watching. The question now was what they would do with that knowledge. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been going on for 6 hours. Chancellor Park sat in her waiting area, listening to the alien representatives argue about what to do about Earth. She was tired. She was frustrated, but she was also prepared. Inside the main chamber, Council Overseer was speaking. His voice carried through the audio feed to where waited. "The human threat must be contained," said. "They have demonstrated military power far beyond what they disclosed. They have deceived this council for decades. They have conducted warfare with a brutality that shocks the conscience. We must take action now, before they decide to turn their weapons against other council members." Several species voiced their agreement. Fear had spread quickly through the galaxy after Earth's victory over the. If humans could defeat a major empire in 3 weeks, what could they do to smaller, weaker species? But other voices disagreed. Representative of the Confederation of Peaceful Worlds spoke next. "Overseer, with respect, your characterization is inaccurate. The humans warned us. They told us explicitly what would happen if we did not act. We chose to ignore that warning. The fault here is ours, not theirs." "They lied about their capabilities," another representative shouted. "They maintained privacy about their capabilities," corrected. "There is a difference. No law requires a species to reveal its full military strength. Many of us in this chamber have secrets we do not share. Why should Earth be punished for doing what we all do?" The argument continued. Some wanted sanctions against Earth. Others wanted isolation protocols that would cut humanity off from galactic trade and communication. A few extremists even suggested military intervention, though those voices were quickly silenced when someone pointed out how well that had worked for the. Finally was called to address the council. She entered the chamber alone, without guards or advisors. She wanted them to see her as she was, a human being, not a threat. She walked to the center of the chamber, where a platform rose from the floor. Around her, hundreds of alien species watched from their elevated seats. She could feel their fear, their anger, their confusion. "Members of the Galactic Council," she began, her voice steady. "You have called me here to answer for Earth's actions. I accept that responsibility, but I will also ask you to answer for yours." Shifted in his seat but remained silent. "You speak of trust," continued. "For 47 years we possessed weapons that could have conquered half this galaxy. We never used them, we never threatened anyone, we kept the peace. You speak of deception. We declared our true capabilities before we revealed them. We gave you a warning. You chose to ignore it. You speak of danger. The Empire slaughtered 340,000 innocent people. We stopped them. Tell me, which of those actions makes us the threat?" She paused, letting her words sink in. "Humanity developed its military capabilities because we learned hard lessons in our own history. We were once divided into hundreds of nations, and we fought terrible wars. We killed each other over resources, beliefs, and territory. But we learned. We learned that peace is not maintained by weakness. Peace is maintained by strength that refuses to be used except when absolutely necessary." Admiral Dongha appeared on screens throughout the chamber. He had been granted permission to present evidence remotely. "Honorable Council," Dongha said, "I have information that was classified until this moment. For the past 40 years, Earth's defense systems have detected 6 major threats to galactic security. In each case, we neutralized these threats quietly, without informing the Council." He displayed the data. The first incident, a rogue artificial intelligence that had escaped from a research facility and was consuming resources to build a fleet. Earth's forces destroyed it before it could become unstoppable. The second, dimensional entities that were breaking through into normal space, threatening several worlds. Earth's quantum weapons sealed the breach. 4 more incidents, each one potentially catastrophic, each one handled by Earth without fanfare or recognition. "We didn't tell you about these threats because we didn't want to cause panic," Dongha explained. "We had the capability to deal with them, so we did. That is what responsible powers do. They protect others when they can." The revelation stunned the Council into silence. While they had been dismissing Earth as a minor species, humanity had been quietly saving the galaxy from threats no one else even knew existed. Ambassador Haewon Park spoke next, her hologram appearing beside. "We don't want to rule you. We don't want to conquer you. We want what we have always wanted, to be left alone to live in peace and to be treated with respect. But understand this clearly, we will never again hide what we are. We will never again restrain ourselves based on your comfort. We gave you respect by holding back. You responded with contempt. That era is over." Representative stood. "Chancellor Park, on behalf of the Confederation of Peaceful Worlds, I must say that the humans are correct. We judged them weak because they chose peace. We dismissed their warnings because we thought them inferior. The fault is not theirs, it is ours. They have shown restraint even in their retaliation, destroying military targets while minimizing civilian casualties. How many of our own species would have shown such discipline?" One, director of Earth's Strategic Defense Initiative, activated another presentation. It showed the construction projects that had been happening in secret around human territory. "These are defensive platforms," one explained. "They are equipped with the same technology that defeated the fleet. They are positioned around every major human world and colony. We are making it clear, we will never be vulnerable again. Any force that approaches human territory with hostile intent will face immediate response." The platforms were massive, bristling with weapons, but one was careful to note their purpose. "These are defensive systems. They cannot project force beyond human territory. They exist solely to protect our people. We are not building an empire. We are ensuring that what happened to our colonies never happens again." The council chamber erupted in arguments. Some species saw this as reasonable, others saw it as threatening. The debate raged for another 4 hours. Finally, a vote was called. 3 options were presented: impose sanctions on Earth, maintain current relations, or establish a new framework that acknowledged Earth's true status as a major power. The vote failed to reach consensus on any option. The council was too divided. Some species wanted reconciliation with Earth. Others wanted confrontation. Many simply didn't know what to do with the new reality. Watched the vote counts come in and felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. Earth would not be sanctioned, but neither would they be fully accepted. They existed in a new status, respected, feared, and isolated by choice. She delivered one final statement before leaving. "To those species who wish to maintain friendly relations with Earth, we welcome you. To those who fear us, we understand. Fear can be healthy when it promotes caution. To those who hate us for defending ourselves, we say this: we did not choose this path. You forced us onto it. But we will walk it with our heads held high, knowing that we acted with both strength and mercy." As she left the chamber, several ambassadors approached her privately. They represented species that had been victims of aggression from other council members, species that the council had ignored just as they had ignored Earth's request for justice. "How did you do it?" one asked quietly. "How did you build such power without anyone knowing?" Smiled sadly. "We did it the same way you could have. We took our security seriously. We planned for the worst while hoping for the best. And we never forgot that in this galaxy, you are only as safe as you are strong." Another ambassador from a species that had been threatened by the before Earth stopped them, spoke up. "Would Earth consider protection agreements? Some of us face threats that we cannot handle alone." "We will consider it," said carefully. "But understand that Earth does not seek to be anyone's master. If we agree to help defend you, it will be as partners, not as your superiors." The news of the Council's failure to reach consensus spread quickly. Some saw it as a victory for Earth. Others saw it as the beginning of the Council's decline. If they couldn't respond effectively to a major power, what was the point of the Council at all? Back on Earth, in the underground command center, reviewed reports from across the galaxy. The political landscape had shifted dramatically. Traditional alliances were being questioned. New partnerships were forming. Several species had already approached Earth about trade agreements and mutual defense pacts. "We changed the galaxy," her assistant said. "In just a few weeks, we completely altered the balance of power." Nodded, "Yes, but change is not always comfortable. We need to be very careful about what comes next. We showed them our strength. Now we need to show them our wisdom. Power without wisdom is just tyranny. We need to prove we're better than that." Admiral Min retired shortly after the council session. He had served Earth for 40 years, most of them while maintaining the illusion that humanity was weak. He had hated every moment of that deception, but he had understood its necessity. Now in his final report he wrote, "The age of pretending is over. Humanity stands revealed. We are strong, capable, and determined. But we must never forget why we built this strength, not to dominate others but to ensure we could never be dominated. That principle must guide everything we do going forward." The galaxy would remember this period as the revelation, the moment when Earth showed its true face. Some species would come to see humanity as potential allies and friends. Others would see them as threats to be contained. But all of them would remember the lesson. Never mistake patience for weakness. Never ignore a warning from those you underestimate. And never assume that the quiet ones are harmless. 10 years had passed since the war with the Empire. Ambassador Min stood in her office aboard the Earth Embassy station and looked out at the stars. She was young by diplomatic standards, only 35, but she had been chosen specifically because she represented the new generation of Earth's relationship with the galaxy. Unlike the ambassadors who came before her, Min didn't have to hide Earth's strength. Everyone knew what humanity was capable of now. Her challenge was different, showing the galaxy that power and compassion could exist together. "Ambassador, the delegation from the Union is here," her assistant informed her. Min smiled. There were a small species, barely 2 million individuals spread across 3 worlds. They had been victims of piracy and raids for decades, too weak to defend themselves, too insignificant for the Council to care about. They were here to ask for Earth's help. She met with them in a comfortable conference room, not the formal diplomatic chamber. She wanted them to feel at ease. "Ambassador," the lead representative began nervously, "we come to ask for Earth's protection. Raiders from the collective have attacked our colonies 6 times in the past year. We have lost thousands of our people. The Council says they will investigate, but we know what that means. Nothing will happen. We have nowhere else to turn." Min listened carefully. "What makes you think Earth can help?" The representative looked surprised by the question. "Everyone knows Earth's military capabilities. You defeated the Empire in 3 weeks. You have technology beyond what most species possess. If anyone can stop the raiders, it is you." "That is true," Min acknowledged. "But I need you to understand something important. If Earth agrees to help you, it will not be as your masters. We will not occupy your worlds or control your government. We will be partners. We will train your security forces, help you build defenses, and respond when you face threats you cannot handle alone. But your people will remain free and independent. Is that acceptable?" The representatives looked at each other, then back at Min. "Yes," they said together, "that is more than acceptable. That is what we hoped for." Similar conversations were happening across the galaxy. Species that had suffered under the old system, where the strong did as they pleased and the weak endured, were approaching Earth for help. Not all were accepted. Earth carefully evaluated each request, making sure they were defending genuine victims and not enabling opportunistic aggression. Captain Min, the younger, commanded the diplomatic cruiser New Dawn. His father had been the admiral who delivered Earth's warning to the Council a decade ago. Now the son carried a different message. The New Dawn was unlike the warships that had fought the. It was designed specifically for humanitarian missions, disaster relief, medical aid, infrastructure support. But it was unmistakably powerful, carrying the same defensive technology that protected Earth's borders. The ship's design was intentional. Earth wanted the galaxy to see that they could help or harm, and they chose to help. Min's current mission was to assist a colony world hit by a massive earthquake. The local government's resources were overwhelmed. Thousands were trapped in collapsed buildings. Medical facilities were destroyed. Clean water was scarce. The New Dawn arrived within 18 hours of the disaster. Its crew deployed rescue drones, mobile medical units, and water purification systems. Human doctors worked alongside local medical personnel. Human engineers helped stabilize damaged structures. The local population watched in amazement as Earth's forces worked with precision and compassion. These were the same humans who had crushed the Empire, now using their technology to save lives rather than take them. "Why are you helping us?" a local official asked Min. "We have nothing to offer Earth in return." Min looked at the official with genuine warmth. "Because you needed help and we could provide it. That is reason enough. My father spent years hiding our strength to avoid being feared. Now we use that strength to help others. Both approaches serve the same goal, a galaxy where everyone can live in peace." Jun ran the cooperation initiative from Earth's capital. His department had become one of the most popular in the government, not for military power but for what it offered: technology sharing, educational exchanges, and joint research projects. Earth began sharing some of its advances. Not weapons technology, but medical treatments that could save lives, agricultural techniques that could feed billions, clean energy systems that could power civilizations without destroying their environments. The response had been overwhelming. Species that once feared Earth now competed for cooperation agreements. Universities wanted to exchange students with Earth schools. Research institutions wanted to collaborate on projects. But Jun was careful. Earth shared selectively, making sure their technology went to species who would use it responsibly. They had learned from watching the power without wisdom was dangerous, whether that power came from weapons or from knowledge. Former war prince had become an unlikely voice for peace. After his fleet was destroyed 10 years ago, he had spent 2 years as a prisoner of war. Earth treated him well, following all the rules for prisoners. They didn't torture him or mistreat him. They simply kept him detained until the war ended. When he was released, he could have returned to military service. Instead, he began speaking about his experience. He traveled to worlds and told them the truth about the war. Earth could have exterminated the species, but they chose mercy instead. "I fought the humans expecting victory," he told audiences. "I was wrong. They destroyed my fleet in minutes. They could have killed me easily. They chose not to. They could have burned our worlds to ash. They chose not to. That is strength I can respect. That is power used wisely." His testimony carried weight because he had no reason to lie. He had been Earth's enemy. He had lost everything in the war. But he could see clearly what others refused to acknowledge. Earth had shown both overwhelming force and remarkable restraint. Dalnim Song directed Earth's cultural exchange programs. She believed that understanding between species came not just from treaties and trade agreements, but from sharing art, music, literature, and ideas. Human cultural works began spreading through the galaxy. Alien species discovered Earth's music, from classical symphonies to modern compositions. They read human literature and found themes that resonated across species: love, loss, hope, perseverance. Some alien artists began collaborating with human creators. A composer wrote a symphony that combined her species' harmonic traditions with human orchestration. A poet, inspired by human verse, wrote about redemption and forgiveness in ways that moved both species. Dalnim believed this was as important as military strength or technological advancement. People fear what they don't understand, she often said. The more they know about us, the more they see that we're not so different from them. We all want safety for our families. We all create beauty. We all struggle with the same fundamental questions about life and meaning. But not everyone was convinced. The Sovereign Defense Pact formed 3 years after the war. 12 species, all of them uncomfortable with Earth's power, joined together. They claimed to be protecting themselves from human expansionism. They built up military forces, shared intelligence, and conducted aggressive posturing near human territory. Earth watched carefully but didn't escalate. They maintained their defenses and continued their diplomatic efforts. Ambassador Min found the pact more sad than threatening. They're wasting resources preparing for an attack that will never come, she told her staff. We don't want their territory. We don't want to rule them, but they're so afraid that they can't see that. The real test of Earth's character came suddenly and unexpectedly. A star system called was home to 7 billion people from 5 different species. The system's sun began exhibiting unusual behavior. Scientists detected that a nearby neutron star was collapsing, and the resulting gravitational waves would destabilize Sun. The entire system would be destroyed in less than a week. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Evacuation plans were proposed, but the mathematics were brutal. Even with every available ship, they could only evacuate 2 billion people. 5 billion would die. Then Earth's scientific division reported something different. They had technology that might save the system, quantum-fold barriers that could redirect the gravitational waves. It had never been tested at this scale, but the simulations showed it might work. The problem was timing. It would take 72 hours to deploy the barriers. Earth's ships would have to stay in the danger zone the entire time. If the neutron star collapsed early, everyone involved would die. Ambassador Min didn't wait for council approval. She didn't demand concessions or political agreements. She contacted Captain Min immediately. "Can you do it?" she asked. Min looked at the tactical data. "Maybe, probably, but we could lose ships, we could lose people. The alternative is 5 billion deaths." "I know," Min smiled. "We're already moving. New Dawn and 7 other ships are en route. We'll have the barriers deployed in 72 hours. 3 of the species living in the system were part of the Sovereign Defense Pact. They had spent years preparing to defend themselves against Earth. Now Earth was coming to save them. The operation was incredibly difficult. Earth's ships had to position themselves precisely around the system, then activate quantum-fold barriers at exactly the right moment. The barriers would create a protective shell around the sun, redirecting the gravitational waves away. At hour 68, the neutron star began collapsing early. The gravitational waves hit faster than predicted. 3 Earth ships were caught in the initial wave and destroyed instantly. 247 crew members died. But the barriers held. The quantum-fold technology worked. The gravitational waves were redirected. Sun stabilized. The system was saved. 6.8 billion people lived because Earth chose to act. 247 humans died making that choice. The galaxy's response was immediate and overwhelming. Species that had feared Earth now mourned Earth's dead. The Sovereign Defense Pact quietly disbanded 2 months later. Several of its member species issued formal apologies to Earth. A memorial was built in orbit around. It listed the names of every human who died saving the system. Beings from 5 different species came to honor them. Ambassador Min attended the memorial's dedication. She stood before the monument and spoke to the crowd gathered there. My predecessors warned the galaxy that we were holding back. When that warning was ignored, they showed our true strength. Today, we show our true purpose. We developed these capabilities not to rule others but to protect those we care about. And we care about all of you, even those who fear us, even those who opposed us. She paused, her voice thick with emotion. 247 humans died here. They died protecting people who lived in nations that considered Earth a threat. They died because it was the right thing to do. That is who we are. We are fierce when threatened. We are generous when others are in need. We refuse to be underestimated, and we refuse to become the monsters some feared we might be. Captain Min stood beside her. He had lost friends in the operation, but when asked if he regretted the decision, he shook his head. "We could have let them die," he said quietly. "No one would have blamed us, especially for the pack species who had opposed us. But that's not who Earth is. We fight when we must. We help when we can. Always." The galactic perspective had shifted completely. Earth was no longer just the species that had hidden their power and then dominated They were the species that chose to save their former critics at the cost of their own lives. 10 years after the warning, Earth held its position as a major power, but not through conquest or fear. They held it through a combination of demonstrated capability and chosen restraint. They could destroy, and they had proven it. They could save, and they had proven that too. The new galactic order understood a complete truth. Earth had been holding back, but not just militarily. They had been holding back their full nature. They were warriors when necessary and healers when possible. They were fierce protectors and generous helpers. They were complex like any sentient species, but they tried to be better than they had to be. Those who gave Earth respect and friendship found valuable allies. Those who threatened Earth learned painful lessons. And everyone now understood the complete message of that warning from a decade ago. Humanity asked for nothing but respect and peaceful coexistence. Those who gave it found Earth to be the best friend they could have. Those who refused learned that Earth was the last enemy anyone wanted to make.